everyone. I'm Jessica Miller, and I'm here doing my seminar for the S.A.F.E method, which is the dog training program that we will be using. The S.A.F.E method is the shorthand version of the science on how animals learn. This includes people as well as dogs. It's also a checklist for you so that you know you're staying on track with that science and teaching your dog in the most optimal way. S.A.F.E is an acronym, and each letter is a step in that process. So for the first letter, S, it stands for signal. Your signal means do something now. This signal is affirmative. It should never be do not do something. Dogs learn best through visual and verbal signals, and so it's important to build the relationship between the two of those. An example would be for sit. If I want the dog to sit, I would go, sit. He had a verbal and a visual signal telling him to do one action. And that is incredibly important when you do give a signal to your dog. Only one action and one behavior is assigned to that signal. That brings us to our second letter and the second step in that process, which is the action. The action is whatever your dog does 3 to 5 seconds after you give the signal. To be clear, these are 3 to 5 Mississippi seconds. It may seem like a long time, but it is important that you give your dog the full amount of that time to make a choice. A lot of training falls through because people do not give their dog enough time to make a decision. The best part about using this science-based program is that even if your dog does or does not do it, your dog is still learning if you give your dog proper feedback, which is the next letter and the next step in the process. Feedback is either yes or no. It's either you did it correctly or you didn't do it correctly, and it has to be consistent each time. What do you usually do whenever your dog does something correctly? I know for my dog, I usually say, good boy, followed by a treat. Whenever you give your feedback for either it be good boy, good dog, yes, thank you, whatever word you choose to be your positive feedback word, it has to remain the same. But more importantly, whenever you are giving positive feedback and the yes feedback to your dog, you want to have whatever neutral word that you're going to say, whether good boy, good girl, and then immediately give a treat afterwards. This is incredibly important because you are building the strength and the value of whatever word is the positive, such as good boy. Good boy has actually no meaning to a dog. It doesn't actually know what you're saying, they're just sounds. But if you say good boy and then give a treat, over time, good boy is going to have the same value as the treat does. What do you usually do whenever your dog does something incorrectly? A lot of people use the word no or bad dog. I don't like personally using either one of these words. I think it's best if you use a sound that a dog can understand without having to teach it to them. In dog language, they usually growl at each other. But for us as humans, we can just make a noise. For me, I go, eh-eh. It's sharp, it's low tone, it'll catch their attention, and I don't have to teach them that that means I don't want you doing that. You did that incorrectly. Now, the next step in the process is the effect. The effect is the next time you ask your dog to do it, he will more than likely repeat the behavior. Do not train your dog to do something whenever you need it done. A good example of this would be to come. You don't want to teach your dog to come when he's running across the street. Not only is it dangerous, but what you're actually teaching your dog is you can do it sometimes and not other times. If you follow the chain of S.A.F.E, signal, action, feedback, and effect, your dog will learn. And that's really important with feedback. Again, even if he doesn't do it right, he's going to learn from it. If your dog is not doing it correctly, that means that somewhere in the chain of S.A.F.E has been broken. There are many ways to break the chain of S.A.F.E. The more common ones are repeating the signal. Good example of this would be sit, sit, sit. As I said before, words that come out of our mouths are just noises to dogs. Sit means absolutely nothing without the feedback you give him. So you have to give the feedback before you repeat the signal. That's also a great way to get your dog to sit on the third time of saying sit. Another way that you can break the chain of S.A.F.E is by combining signals. Rusty, sit. Those are two separate commands, and you're now asking to do two separate behaviors at the same time. That's not possible. They need to be two separate commands and be given feedback accordingly to those behaviors. Another way to break the chain would be to combining signals and feedback. They've got to be clear. You've got to give the full 3 to 5 seconds for your dog. And another way would be to be giving negative feedback out of the blue. Your dog may listen to you and may react if you go, eh, if he is chewing on your shoes, but he's not learning anything. When you're giving feedback, you have to be giving feedback to something you already expect your dog to do. He's not a mind reader, he's a dog. So you need to tell him what you expect for him before you give him feedback for his behavior. Alrighty, that just about does it for the S.A.F.E training program. Thank you everyone, and you have a wonderful day.